Hello, this is Lysha Holmes of Key Recruitment here, and I'm delighted to welcome back a guest that joined us at the start of our YouTube journey, and you all recognise her. This is Louise Archer of Retrained Search. Hi, Lou.
Hello, hi Lysha, great to be back.
Oh,
Yeah, I've been following you, listening to everybody else, so it's a real pleasure to be back here.
well, we're delighted to have you back. And so, for those who haven't been following your recent news, can you just explain where you're up to in terms of your business?
Yeah, sure. So I took the opportunity with the time that I was suddenly awarded, having all of my face-to-face training cancelled or postponed, to finally do what I've been wanting to do for ages and put it all into a video training program, which I'm delivering now as a blend of hands-on. I'm basically hand-holding everybody through that. And it's done, it's finished, like a lot of like heartache and just hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and days and weeks that just blended into a whole load of mountainous work is finally finished, and we have currently 9 teams running through the program, all at various different stages and winning retainers already. So yeah, it's really exciting. I've been really busy.
It's absolutely wonderful, and I've obviously been a huge advocate of what you do, and anyone that's interested, Lou's contact details will be attached to this video and on our shares on social media, so watch this space, everyone. So I have got a rather controversial question to ask you, given that I'm a huge supporter and cheerleader for the recruitment sector, but is recruitment as we know it broken?
Oh, it is controversial because not everybody will will agree with me, but I guess the safest way of me answering it is that is predominantly why people call me. Because it is, the contingent model is just it's not really working in most markets anymore, and that's why agency owners, agency leaders, consultants are calling me to say, like, we need to change tack. And we've been reflecting on fill rates, revenue, motivation, and client relationships, and productivity, and all of those things that make a successful business, and saying it's frustratingly not working, and we want to do something differently. So I don't think nowadays I don't think the contingent model works that well in the markets that clients typically use external service provision for, for the straightforward kind of easy to fill positions where you can just stick an advert on and it doesn't really matter who you get, it's just a warm body in a seat. Then they can usually do it themselves. They're not going to go generally to look for some specialist support. And in the markets where they can't do it themselves and they do need some specialist support, it isn't as simple as just putting an advert on and fielding a response. Like I remember the days where my inbox was basically listed in ad responses, and all you had to do was kind of put them in the right places, go through them, sift through them, and it's just not like that anymore. You have to go out and find them, and that is so risky when you've got no commitment from a client and all the problems that the contingent model causes. When I talk about do you mind me elaborating a little bit on this, by the way?
Oh, absolutely. Go for it.
When I talk about the contingent model, in my training, I sort of help people to see why it's broken, or rather why it isn't as effective as it is, working on a retained basis, by using like a few different analogies. I use the grading system, the iceberg, and the house for sale, right? So I say, if you think about the way that a normal contingent recruiter, typical contingent recruiter in pretty much every country I've come across and worked in, across every sector, they grade their jobs, some way, shape or form, whether it's, A to D, or whether it's stars or numbers or whatever. A great job is a job that they feel confident about filling, and they're going to work closest to the fee because they've got to spread their risk, basically, because what I'm saying, and all the recruiters watching, I'm sure, will understand. And in order to do that, basically what it means is anything that's slightly, it's more challenging, or it's, the client's not as, as good at coming back to them, or the feedback isn't as good, or it's niche, or it's specialist, or maybe the fee's a little bit lower than that one, or it's in a difficult location, or anything that makes it kind of slightly harder, which, let's face it, is a lot of the positions. We were only just talking about the challenge of finding really great, business development recruiters, for example. Those positions end up at the bottom of the pile. And time again, you know, if they're not getting the service, and you can't dedicate the service because it takes too long to find somebody, and you're spending that time at risk because the client might just say, actually, I've decided not to recruit it, or somebody else gets there first. And basically, if you think of, you know, they produced a statistic not long ago about the active numbers of candidates in the talent pool, and it might have shifted a little bit now because of COVID, but beforehand there was, you know, 30% of any given talent pool was active and therefore would respond to a LinkedIn message or an email, for example, or an initial approach, and 70% of them wouldn't. And a passive, that balance might have shifted. Let's go bold and say it's 50-50. There's still, or even 60-40, there's still a large percentage of talent that won't respond to an initial approach. And then when you think on a contingent basis, because everybody's working closest to the fee, that's the percent, that's the people that they're engaging with, that visible portion of the iceberg that's above the water, or maybe now just slightly, you know, there's more visibility. Those people that generally are the better candidates because they're showing loyalty and they're not responding to initial approaches and they're being held on to because they're good generally, are the ones that they don't get time to get to because they're constantly balancing the risk with, you know, using the grading system and working closest to the fee. And then when you think that when you get, you know, contingent recruiters working like that, which they do, and we all have done, those people are generally the same people that keep getting approached, and so you end up as a client or as a brand in the market looking like a house for sale with loads of for sale signs.
Right, yeah, I get it.
You know, and that isn't.
That's not
what does it say about you? You know, you're not just damaging your reputation in the market now, but all those people are potentially, you know, future hires, and you know, it's not helping you now or in the future. Yeah. So, you know, when you consider, and also, you know, I could just go on, but also, you know, when you're working on a contingent basis, you've also got to work really quickly because it might get out in the market, somebody might spec a CV on, even if you're working on an exclusive basis, or there might be other agencies involved. So if you do find someone, you got to fucking get the CV. Sorry, am I allowed to swear, by the way?
Of course no. It's me. Everyone knows that word.
You know, you've got to get the CV over really quickly because, you know, otherwise somebody else might. And
first, there's the other F word, fastest finger. There you go.
Yeah. And we all know we've got to do it, but the impact that has, which means we don't get time to spend with the candidate making sure that they are actually definitely right and that they are definitely committed. We've just got to get the CV over first. And so when you put all of those things together in the environment, and you look at most of the positions that, you know, experts like you and I and the other recruiters that we work with are working on, you think it's no fucking wonder that, you know, the fill rate on a contingent basis is actually typically, you know, 20, sometimes as much as maybe 25%. It's not good. It's not good. It is, and so yeah, I am finding that it is pretty broken.
Yeah, it is pretty broken. I mean, look, you've given some figures there and stats there, but, you know, given what's happened with COVID and the sort of volume of applicants that will now be out there due to the sort of mass redundancies we're seeing, can the retained model still work for a potential client?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we've been using it in most cases recently as one of the main reasons that we need to operate on a retained basis, because yes, there may be more active candidates, which are arguably there's more work in shit sifting.
I can't.
Yeah, I said it. Have I taken it away from you now?
No, I tried to say it 4 times to a client before. I'm going to try shit shifting. It's a tongue try and say it. Shit.
I love it.
I kept saying sit shifting. He's going, what are you trying to say? You said it. Shit sifting. Exactly.
I said it, and I love it.
YouTube, Lou.
I love it. Because yes, there's more work in doing that, but it's not just that. It's that, you know, those people that won't respond to initial approaches not only take more getting to now because they're being, you know, held on to, but they're more nervous than ever. You know, like they're uncertain times. Who knows who's going to pull through the other side of this? You know, it's it's worrying for people, and so they're cautious of making moves more so than they were before. So
yeah, definitely.
there's a really strong, compelling reason to need to spend more time reassuring, engaging, getting to know, building relationships with the candidates in order to bring them through that process of the attraction, and then the engagement with the client, and then ultimately securing them. It's harder, arguably it's harder than it ever was before. So I absolutely there's never been a better time to recommend a retained solution. Yeah, definitely.
Really useful. So the other word, well, the other letter that is the dreaded letter now, apart from the F word, is the P word, which is pivot. Plenty of companies are using this opportunity to pivot, aren't they? So how can maybe selling other services, such as talent pipeline, etc., consultancy services, actually be advantageous at this time?
Well, I mean, I think it's like there was some activity earlier on LinkedIn about productizing and designing products to suit your clients, and I absolutely wholeheartedly believe that your service should be in response to your clients' challenges.
Definitely.
And so I very much see products like pipelining and talent mapping and even insight studies as a solution to whatever whatever challenges your client's facing, rather than deciding, oh, now we're going to sell pipelining, right, let's go and shove it under everybody's noses and say, do you want to buy this? So what I do think though is that working on a retained basis or being consultative with your client, and good old-fashioned just asking open questions and finding out what their challenges are, uncovers the kind of opportunity that isn't necessarily always solved by a search, a full end-to-end search process. So they're not necessarily ready to make a hire. They might need bench strength, but they know they're going to need it, particularly now. They might not be ready to make hires now, but they do want to get a feel, and they do want to start building some kind of pipeline in the market, that when they're ready, they've got some relationships and they know that they can move those people to hire. And they don't necessarily have the money to go for a full end-to-end process, but a talent map or a talent pipeline, you can spread the cost of that and build that and split it up into, say, thirds, for example, and start with just the identification, and then move into engaging when the client's ready to take on that cost and carry out that activity, and then move into the third stage. I guess a lot of people ask me about services like mapping and pipelining, and I find that quite a few people can overcomplicate it, or rather it can seem like a complex solution, because you think, well, what is that and what does it mean, and what does it actually look like? And it's just a search it's just stages of the search, the identification, and then the engagement and the interaction and bringing people through that process is the pipeline, and then the hire would be the third stage. And I think if you think of it like that, when you go to a client and say, what challenges are you facing, what's causing you pain, where do you want to get to, and what's stopping you from getting there, and then you can start to look at putting solutions like that together for them. And because at the moment people's challenges can be quite complex, or they might not know exactly what they need and when, and they do need the foresight of not just saying, right, I know what I need and I want it now. It's, let's have a look here and then decide what to do from there. So being able to be agile and be flexible about the solutions that you're providing, I think, is really going to help you position yourself as a trusted advisor and a partner, rather than that, here's a product, buy it, why don't you want it, have it, I want you to buy it, and that reactive kind of
belief, doesn't it, that you just be that rigid when you just need to, through consultant, that's what you do, you listen to what your customer needs, that's what you're doing, that's how you're consulting them. So one final question for this round, because I'm sure we'll have you on again. Get your crystal ball out, what are your predictions for the second half of 2020 for recruitment?
Well, if the amount of people interested in developing retained search capability is anything to go by, and I guess that's, I'm kind of living in and breathing that world, and maybe that's a bit of a bubble, but if the amount of people that are wanting to do that is anything to go by, then I would I would like to think that we're starting to change the default of the way that we offer our services and the way that we work with clients. Either we do a proper job and we're commissioned to carry that work out, or we don't.
Yep.
And it isn't a sort of by chance, which is the definition of contingent, as I think I might have said before, but it isn't a by chance hope that we get a result and that I can justify or be paid for the time that I spend and hope that the client ends up with a result. That it is actually a partnership, and it becomes more, that maybe that's a bit of an optimistic prediction, Lysha, but I'd love it if that was the case.
Yeah, but you and me both, and it would actually be recognised as a profession rather than just we're just salespeople. We're not actually. We're here as your partners, in the same way you would pay your lawyer or you would pay for your IT service or HR. It's exactly the same. It's just got as much commercial value, if not more. So that's all. I do hope that your prediction also comes true, and it's been wonderful to have you on again, and look forward to speaking to you in due course. You take care.
Thank you so much for having me.